What is the most Karen thing a Karen has even done to you personally? When I worked at the Home Depot, a Karen told me that she didn't want any black men to install her flooring. I was in charge of arranging her order and told her that we don't select which individuals exactly will install her floor and that she'll get who she gets. She proceeds to have a fit about it, demands white installers, asks to speak to my manager. I'm so glad she did, because my manager's name was Dwayne and he was a real big black dude. Turns out she didn't want to speak to the manager. Oh, the blissful schadenfreude. Left her card in the F-pose machine at the McDonald's I was managing as a teenager, rang me to say I needed to drive it out to her, that I ruined her night, ruined her family's night, owed her free food and that she'll be laying a formal complaint when I refused all of the above. She showed up 3/4 of an hour later with steam blowing out her ears asking for her card back. Last we heard from her. I don't understand what people expect to happen when they threaten a formal complaint for things like this. This isn't 1970 anymore, most places aren't mom and pop shops anymore, the CEOs and corporate overlords don't gaff about your peon problems, and they can certainly do without the business of one person in millions, or, in the case of McDonald's, literally the entire damn planet. Edit. Much wiser Redditors have pointed out that big corporations care way more about complaints and customer satisfaction than I previously thought. I stand corrected. Perhaps this is why so many Karens have been created? Who knows? That I needed to leave the gym because I made her son feel like only fat people go to the gym. Your son is in shitty shape because you feed him garbage, Karen. Actually, the weird thing was that he was like fit, but his mom was just being a bitch. He probably had about a half an inch of extra fat on him, which is better than most of us can do. But not in Karen's eyes. Yep, and I genuinely felt so bad for the kid, 'cause then his mom tried to get him to bench way more than he could do, without a spotter. When I worked at a bakery, Karen bought a chocolate cupcake and ate half of it. Karen then asked if she could return her half-eaten chocolate cupcake, not because she didn't like it, but because she wanted to exchange it for half of a vanilla cupcake, something less decadent. Like most bakeries, we did not sell cupcakes by the half. She became offended when I asked if she wanted to purchase a vanilla cupcake. Her disdain for common sense and critical thinking is impressive. You should have bit into a vanilla cupcake while making heavy eye contact, then offer it to her. Doctor here. I used to work in a public night shift service, kinda like an emergency room but for non-emergencies, to keep the hospitals clear of white codes, so anything from a fever to a sore throat, to prescriptions for urgent treatments, and a Karen walks in at 3 a.m. asking for a prescription for hypertension drugs, which isn't unusual, as people, old people, more often than not, but she looked 55 tilde, sometimes don't notice they're running low. Anyway, the law, not a rule, not my decision, the law, states that this service can only write prescriptions for potentially life-threatening conditions, drugs for a maximum of 72 hours coverage. So if you take one pill a day, I can only prescribe you a single blister. Here we don't have bottles, but blisters, and while I'm writing the prescription, Karen casually mentioned that she was insomniac, and while cleaning the medicine cabinet she realized she was down to her last full blister. My pen stops, I ask her to repeat, full blister? Yeah, so I take the prescription, tear it in half, then again, then I throw it in the bin, explaining her the law. She gets mad, starts yelling and threatened to call the cops. Go ahead. Cops came, and she triumphantly announced that I'm refusing to treat her. I explain the situation, and they ask her if it's true that she has a full blister, and she, of course, being a Karen who is always right no matter what, confirms it. The cops look at her, still with a look of triumph, waiting for them to arrest me, then at me, then ask her politely to leave, as I'm in the right. She's livid. The day after, my boss called me and cracked up cause she went there during the day to talk to the manager, and she, my boss, told her the exact same thing. Never saw her again in there, weirdly enough. I deliver appliances for Best Buy. We had a woman call and complain that her fridge was not pre-cooled before it was delivered and that she had to wait for it to come down to temp. No one in the office was prepared for that one. Edit. Holy crap. Thank you whoever popped my gold cherry. You rock. Worked at a grocery store and a coworker put a 99-cent sticker on my shirt. We were 2 of maybe 5 employees, so we were all good friends and everything is funny when you gotta pass time on a shift, so I just left it there. Some woman came through my line and asked me why I had a sticker on my shirt, and I just kinda laughed it off. She asked if I thought it was funny and I was like, not really but sorta. She asked if my coworker put it there, to which I responded yes. She told me she was going to speak to the store owner cause it was disrespectful to behave that way at work. She told me to call my manager and I did, but he was a super cool guy and knew this lady was a fucking idiot. She talked to the store owner and my manager about firing me to no avail. She accomplished nothing and was a cunt. The end. I'm laughing pretty hard at the idea of some mob being so offended about a sticker being where it shouldn't be that someone should lose their job over it. When I was working retail, this one woman had a big bag of coupons. Most of them were unusable because either they were expired or they were duplicates. She berated me because the system was rejecting most of the coupons. She called me stupid amongst other names, telling me I just wasn't doing it right. Then, as a typical Karen would, she asked to speak with my manager. My manager came and asked what the problem was. The women ranted about how incompetent I was because I didn't know how to scan a coupon. My manager looked at the coupons and the coupons were the problem, not me. My manager bitched out the customer for being disrespectful for me and told the customer to leave the store. I hated working there, but I'm so grateful that I had managers that totally didn't go by the customer is always right rule and weren't afraid to stand up for their employees. That was just one of many incidents. When I worked at a popular arcade chain, I had a Karen absolutely berating me because I wouldn't give her kid a prize they didn't win. So she wants a manager, and when my manager comes over, she straight-faced this bitch's whole rant until Karen goes, "Whatever happened to the customers always right?" And my manager leans in a little and goes, "We don't have customers here, we have guests. Customers always right, guests are usually wrong, goodbye," and waved a security guard over to escort Karen out. Best day of work ever. Was at the park with my daughter, she was 3 at the time. Her and a couple other kids started to play together. Then she attempted to use the monkey bars. She's a very adventurous child. About midway through, she fell. I didn't do anything because she's fallen before and I want her to learn to get back up on her own and not be scared to try again. Anyway, one of the boys was about to get on the monkey bars too, until I heard a woman run toward him screaming to stop. She picked him up and looked at my daughter. Told her it wasn't smart of her to go on the monkey bars if she wasn't fully ready because then others might get that same idea. That's when I got up and went to my daughter's defense. Sternly told the woman to not speak to her that way, and it's no fault of hers that she wasn't scared to try something new. She took her kid and left. Came up to my register and asked for the price of a protein bar. Every item in the store had a physical price tag, because we didn't have scanners at the register. I took it from her, flipped it over, and let her know it was $2.49 before tax. She asked me how much the case would be. Normally we did discounts for cases, but they had to be ordered ahead of time, so I started explaining we couldn't do a discount unless. She cut me off aggressively and hissed I didn't ask for a discount. So I typed in $2.49 by 12, added tax, and told her the final price. She stared me down for a few minutes before asking me to get my manager. Once my manager arrived, she spent literally 10 minutes tearing into me, describing me as the least helpful person ever, talking about my bad attitude, complaining about how awful and rude I was, etc., etc., etc. I was working nearly full-time, 35.5 hours per week, and commuting to a school over an hour away 4 days a week. This lady took the time out of her day to break me down to the point I started crying. Thanks, Karen, I still remember you. Hope you enjoyed your fucking protein bar. I used to work at a fast food in a theme park when I was 18. Karen held up the line cause she was demanding us to assemble a food for her daughter, which we aren't allowed to do cause we go by a menu. My daughter can't have that. Well, what can you do for me? Do you want her to starve? Are one of the most irritating lines I ever encountered. Do you want her to starve? At this rate, that might be for the best. Asked for my manager's personal cell phone number to complain that I, 7 months pregnant at the time, would not carry a refrigerator, that she had not paid for in the cost of her room, up to her second-story room. We did not have an elevator, rather than just accept an upgrade for free because she didn't want to unpack her stuff. She refused to believe we had rooms without fridges and I was just being fat and lazy. When I refused to give her the cell phone number, she asked for corporate's number. I wrote it down on a sticky note with a smiley face. She came down later and asked to move rooms. I made her pay the difference. I used to work retail, so I have come across my fair share of Karens. They were a huge reason why I went back to school and no longer work as a cashier. Anyways, one day while I was manning the registers with a few other co-workers of mine, I had a massive nosebleed right as I was finishing a transaction. I grabbed a tissue and quickly excused myself to run to the restroom so I could try to get it to stop bleeding. This meant that I couldn't say goodbye to Karen and give the little spiel about how I was oh so grateful for her shopping with us. Anyways, after about 10 minutes, I was finally able to get my nose back under control and headed back to the registers. I saw her waiting to the side with a scowl on her face, arms crossed over her chest, the whole 9 yards. She proceeded to scold me about how rude I was for not saying goodbye. After I apologized and explained that I had an unexpected nosebleed, she told me I should have tried holding it in and that the customer comes first. My brain was literally, after that. I'm sure if you had said the goodbye spiel with blood gushing down your face, she would have then complained about it being a health risk and how you got blood on her.
That's all. Thank you. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.